Good morning. You guys all awake? Let's see. Yeah, so far. Well, 5 more minutes from now, I'm going to ask you the same question in case you decide to fall asleep. Never mind. Yeah. I'd like to thank you for the privilege of being here today, because the memories that you bring back to me, it seems like it was like 3 or 4 months ago that I was about 19 at a little liberal arts college in Indiana, and I didn't know what the devil I wanted to do. And I was doing okay in the grades, and I thought, I'll become a pre-med. I'll become a doctor. Why not, yeah? And then I got into physics, and we got into calculus, and I got lost. And I got a D in physics. And the physics professor said, Fred, you're getting A's and B's in humanities. Why don't you switch over? Okay. So I did. And a year later, by the time at the end of my junior year, I was so lucky, I got accepted to Northwestern Graduate School in television, which was a brand new thing back in those days. And that was cool. And they guaranteed me 30 hours work a week at the educational TV station in Chicago, $1 an hour, minimum wage. But hey, I was a starving student. And you know what that's like, don't you? Yeah, amen. So it was a great deal. A couple years later, by the way, I got a call from a guy I'd known in the Midwest, and he was a program director at a TV station in some town in California called San Jose, whatever that was. And I was a gringo from Indiana. I didn't know how to pronounce San Jose, you know. And he hired me as a floor director at KNTV Channel 11. And I drove out here, and I realized suddenly, oh my God, how lucky I am. Because back in Indiana, it was freezing and snowing and all that jazz like it is today, right? How lucky I am to be living in one of the most beautiful places on earth. And when you stop and think about it, we are all pretty well spoiled, aren't we? Especially when you hear the news about what's going on back east in terms of weather, etc. I want to begin my presentation today, however, by taking you to a totally different place, okay? It's not beautiful. It's not inviting, like the San Francisco Bay Area, but it is a place, in fact, since it's downright frightening, it is a place that will help me explain very vividly what our founding fathers built here in America. Now, you're only going to be in this place for 1 minute, all right? But for the next minute, I want you to picture yourself living in a country where you have absolutely no freedom. Your emperor or your dictator tells you what to do and when to do it, or what not to do. And for the next minute, I am your dictator. I now control you. Do you understand? You will not meet in groups of more than 2, period. You will not discuss your ideas about politics or religion with anyone else unless I approve in advance. You will not recite any prayers or pledges of allegiance to anything or to anyone unless, of course, it is to me. And if you're accused of a crime and you cannot convince me of your innocence within 5 minutes, regardless of the severity of the crime, I now sentence you to death. Okay, the drama's up. Okay, the minute's over. Let's come back to reality. But actually, for that minute, you just experienced what life was like for the overwhelming majority of our ancestors throughout history. The absolute power of one man or a handful of tyrants. In fact, 100 billion, give or take a few billion, men, women, and children throughout the history of mankind did not possess freedom. Freedom that we enjoy and sometimes take for granted today. How in God's name did we get so lucky? How in the world did our original Americans, those founding fathers, actually defy history and produce for us this great treasure chest of freedoms that we sometimes take for granted? And what do I think you and I should and must be doing for the remainder of our lives to nurture, sustain, and protect our American freedoms? Let me try to answer those questions by rolling back the calendar 4 centuries, okay? Actually, it's 4 centuries plus 6 years, okay? 7 years. 1607, Jamestown, Virginia. That is the year that the great American dream was finally set in motion. Now, we know that there had been other Atlantic seaboard towns at the time, but actually 104 men and boys settled the first English colony in America that survived. And what were they after? Freedom. Yes, economic freedom. To make a little money for themselves so they can improve their lives, also pay off their investors back in England who enabled them to get over here in the first place, right? Here in Jamestown, they had that freedom, didn't they? Yeah. And during the next century and a half, people came from all over Europe, mostly from England, and they were also after what? financial freedom, political freedom, religious freedom, or a combination thereof. And they eventually settled in, as we know, 13 American colonies. And by the middle of the 18th century, most of us early colonists were loyal to the King of England, weren't we? In fact, most of us original Americans were Brits, loyal to the king. But that guy was 3,500 miles away, right? That's 4 to 6 weeks by sailing ship, kind of hard to govern from that distance, right? So what did he do? He appointed governors to rule each of his colonies. Fortunately, the king also gave us colonists the ability and the freedom to set up our own local governments and our own little communities, because we were used to that in England or in Northern Europe. Thank heaven he did. Now, compared to the comforts that we enjoy in the 21st century, it was not an easy life, especially early for most of us new colonists at the time. But overall, and eventually, we colonists started enjoying a higher standard of living than most other people on earth at that time. In fact, our taxes were much lower than our citizen counterparts living over there, right? We had come from crowded towns in England and Northern Europe with limited farmland around us, but my golly, here, the horizon was endless. When we had a farm, we could grow almost as far as we could see, right? And what a future we saw, right? And suddenly we thought, there was a change. We colonists finally decided to risk the good life by rebelling against, of all people, the King of England. And that made absolutely no sense, did it?
Greed. Desperate greed by England. The British victory over France had been very costly. Britain's budget deficit was more than £137 million, an enormous amount of money in 1763.
He's talking about the French-Indian War, right? That we've all probably studied a little bit about. The Brits won it, but it was very costly indeed. I beg your pardon, sir, but just who in the devil are you anyway?
Samuel Adams, born 1722, Quincy, Massachusetts. You may know my father of the same name, who operated a famous brewery in Boston a few miles away.
In fact, you're John Adams' cousin, right? I tell you what, Sam, we can hear you, but we can't see you. I mean, why didn't you join us, huh?
Because I'm dead, Fred. But I'm with you in spirit, because I and many of my revolutionary friends would like to help you and your audience understand how we engineered the freedoms that you enjoyed today.
Whoa. Hey, this could be kind of interesting, huh? Tell you what, Sam, why don't you tell us who's in your group, okay?
I'll let them introduce themselves.
All right.
Benjamin Franklin, at your pleasure.
Patrick Henry, in the name of the Lord.
George Washington.
My name is Thomas Paine.
John Adams, here for my cousin Sam.
Thomas Jefferson here.
James Madison, present.
Alexander Hamilton, at your service.
And I'm Abigail Adams, here with my husband John.
Well, that's quite a group, Sam, and you say we can talk to them, huh? Okay, I tell you what, Sam, let's begin with you. If I remember my history correctly, those British started taxing a lot more than our incomes, didn't they, Sam?
Indeed. Their first aggressive law was the Stamp Act of 1764. Yeah. Almost everything printed or written would have to be stamped and therefore taxed. Wills, ads, newspapers, playing cards, even dice had to be stamped and therefore taxed.
Obviously, that's why you inspired your Sons of Liberty to rebel, right, Sam?
I must admit to spurring them on one night outside my home, fronting Boston Harbor. I told them, we helped pay for Britain's war with manpower, money, and supplies. Why should we pay more now? They tax us without us having legal representation.
By the way, the Sons of Liberty, just to refresh your memories here a little bit, were workers who actually in the greater Boston area, about 2,000 of them, and they're the ones who actually led the protests and the demonstrations and the boycotts of British goods. Fortunately, although it took a few years, as you remember, the British eventually backed down and they repealed those duties on goods. And then it was just a matter of time.
Except tea, my friend.
Golly, I should have remembered that. Help me out, 1773? About 10 years after the end of the French-Indian War. In fact, Britain had passed the Tea Act, and that gave them a monopoly on the tea trade throughout New England, especially around Boston, and the boys didn't like that. I understand that Sam, you and the boys decided every time you drank a cup of tea, you knew that 99% of it was going to the Brits. And you didn't like it, so tell me what you guys did about it, Sam.
What a night. About 200 of us colonists, mostly Sons of Liberty, boarded 3 ships in the middle of the night and dumped 10,000 pounds of tea into Boston Harbor. Cousin John, you were quite eloquent describing our little tea party.
Indeed, there was a dignity, a majesty, a sublimity in the effort of you and your patriots that I greatly admired. And it worked?
Well, gentlemen, let's say your little Boston Tea Party gave the king little choice except to crack down. In fact, they closed the port of Boston. They put Massachusetts under military rule. They sent more troops here to the colonies, and we had nothing to do except set up our own little militias in all of our own small towns just to protect the little stuff that we already had, right? Patrick Henry, sir, let me involve you, sir, if I can. You certainly helped ignite the fire of revolution in that speech you gave. St. John's Church, Richmond, Virginia. There you were with a bunch of representatives, fellow representatives, most of whom were still sort of leaning toward the king's side. A tough audience. I'm curious what you said to them, sir, Mr. Henry.
I bluntly described our options to them: freedom or slavery. Then I finished with the question: is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? I then crossed my wrists, suggesting manacles. I raised my eyes and my chained hands toward heaven and prayed, "Forbid it, Almighty God." Then I stared at those timid loyalists in the audience, lowered my hands, still crossed, and said, "I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death."
1 month later, April 19th, 1775, just outside Boston, British troops killed 8 of our Minutemen and then marched on to Concord, firing that legendary shot heard round the world. Our Revolutionary War had begun. Congress then named George Washington to command the Continental Army. And sir, Mr. Washington, if I may ask you, sir, when you arrived at your new headquarters there in Cambridge, just outside Boston, you saw your troops. I mean, young men and old boys, not very well trained, not in very good shape, not very well armed. Sir, at that moment, what did you think our chances were against the best trained army and navy in the world, sir?
In a word, hopeless. Few people knew the predicament we were in. Too little powder for our muskets, too little money from Congress. My troops were wretchedly clothed and equipped. They were broken and dispirited. And I must admit that my abilities and military experience may not have been equal to the extensive and important trust placed in me when Congress appointed me Commander-in-Chief.
Really? Fortunately, sir, for the America of that day and America today, your leadership eventually prevailed. And it was about 7 months later, by the way, after Washington took command, that would have made it January 1776, there was a journalist by the name of Thomas Paine that provided another spark to help set fire to our revolutionary movement. Mr. Paine, let me ask you, you were born a Brit. You'd only been here, what, a year and a half. Why in God's name, sir, did you want to get involved and commit treason against your own king?
Fred, come now. One honest man is worth more to society than all the crowned ruffians who ever lived. I prefer liberty over submission to a tyrannical king. I wrote a pamphlet called Common Sense, in which I argued very simply that the colonies should declare themselves independent because there was something very absurd in supposing a continent to be perpetually governed by an island.
By the way, 100,000 copies of Common Sense were sold in just 3 months, and they helped spark our movement toward revolution. Finally, we loyal British colonists were now becoming revolutionaries. Yes. And then our political representatives took over. In fact, John Adams, sir, let me ask you, you were there in Philadelphia. That would have been the Second Continental Congress, right, sir? June 1776. And I understand that you were quite firm in convincing this new kid from Virginia, Tom Jefferson, that he should write a formal Declaration of Independence. And I'm curious, sir, how you convinced him. Precisely what did you say to young Tom?
You are a Virginian, and a Virginian ought to appear at the head of this business. I am obnoxious and unpopular, and you are very much otherwise. You can write 10 times better than I can.
Sort of sounds like John, doesn't it? Yeah. Or at least it sounds like Abigail talking to John, right? By the way, Jefferson did write the formal Declaration of Independence on the second floor of a rented house, then on the outskirts of Philadelphia, now right downtown. Mr. Jefferson, let me ask you, sir, why did we even need a formal Declaration of Independence? Sir?
Well, first, Fred, we wanted the world to know about the abuses of the king. Right. And we also needed to tell the world about our radical idea called consent of the governed. We wanted to explain that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. And this meant that the people had the right, indeed, the freedom to determine their own government, and not to have it imposed on them by a king or a tyrant.
In fact, sir, your fans praised you for creating and writing the Declaration of Independence in, I think, what, less than 3 weeks, right?
Fred, did you say created?
Yes.
Hardly. I was simply expressing, as lucidly as possible, and in a condensed way, what was on America's mind. You see, these were not original principles or sentiments. George Mason had crafted many of the ideas in his Virginia Declaration of Rights only a month earlier. Yeah. The entire Congress had thoroughly discussed these principles in the 74 Convention. Plato and Aristotle and Cicero, they all inspired me with their accounts of the struggle for freedom in early Greece and Rome. John Locke convinced me that government is morally obliged to serve people by protecting life, liberty, and property. And Algernon Sidney moved me with his rebellion against...
Let me interrupt you. Why did you change John Locke's life, liberty, and property to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Sir?
Well, please understand, Fred, that the pursuit of happiness is more important as a right than property. Also, I wanted our fellow patriots to understand that self-gratification is only half of our freedom to pursue happiness. The other half is our responsibility to be patriotic, to participate in our government, and to help our fellow citizens. Now, Fred, you and all your friends know that nature has implanted in our breasts a love of others, a moral instinct which prompts us to feel and to help relieve the distresses of others. That's the pursuit of happiness I wanted to emphasize.
Of course, you know what Tom Jefferson got, don't you? For all of his eloquence in the Declaration of Independence, Congress made 86 edits and removed about a quarter of his original draft, especially those two portions where he called the king a tyrant, and also where he denounced slavery as, quote, a cruel war against human nature itself, end of quote. Much too harsh, the congressman felt. Finally, though, 56 men adopted and signed the Declaration of Independence, and by so doing, they did what? They committed treason. In fact, Ben Franklin, I read where your reaction to the signing of the Declaration of Independence was almost a prophecy, right, sir?
Yes, I cautioned the signers with the admonition, we must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately.
Ooh. Most of those signers, by the way, were men of substantial wealth and standing in their communities, yet they risked it all for freedom, and they and their families, most of them, paid very dearly for their treason. But with their signatures, they did what? They challenged the new Americans of their time to finally fight for their freedoms and to accept the responsibility of preserving them. And boy, fight we did, didn't we? Over the next 7 long years, 1776 to 1783, we were outnumbered by the world's finest army and navy, but now we were fighting on our own home turf for what? Liberty, yes. We also had the genius and the grit and sometimes the downright luck of General George Washington. We also knew our territory, where to go inland to get lumber and supplies. And the Brits, they didn't have enough troops there to fight in all 13 colonies, let alone to occupy all of them. The British, by the way, finally started losing some battles. And then France entered the war on our side. Finally, Spain entered the war on our side. And finally, in 1781, as you recall vividly, almost 8,000 British troops under General Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown, Virginia. And with that, the king lost support of Parliament, and that became the turning point in our Revolutionary War. England finally recognized American independence and the Treaty of Paris, which, by the way, was negotiated in 1783 by Ben Franklin, among others. Now, however, we do have a problem. Let us go back to 1783, all right? All of you are citizens of our 13 colonies, and you're trying to figure out now with the rest of us, how do we make this new thing called America work? I mean, you colonists are fighting each other over land and boundaries and slaves and money, etc. You're free to argue among yourselves and accomplish essentially nothing. Many of you are printing your own money. It doesn't work in the next colony. That makes no sense, right? The Articles of Confederation we wrote back in the 70s to unite us against the British are no longer working. The government those articles created, hopelessly inefficient. And almost all of you who were either farmers or business people during that Revolutionary War are now deeply in debt. And it's not very comfortable, is it, right now? Not at all. So the question now is, how can our 13 very independent colonies build a common defense, secure our liberties, and provide for the general welfare? God, it does seem hopeless, doesn't it, at the moment? Enter James Madison, Alexander Hamilton. Madison, the young scholar from Virginia, 5'4", 100 pounds of him, dripping wet, I think. Hamilton, the brilliant lawyer from New York City. And together, they and a handful of other patriots persuaded Congress to appoint delegates to a special convention, presumably to revise the old Articles of Confederation. But Madison and Hamilton did what? Yes, they pulled a fast one. They introduced the delegates to the Virginia Plan. Madison had been working on that thing for years, and it became the framework for a new U.S. Constitution to completely replace the old Articles of Confederation. Mr. Madison, let me ask you, sir, you defied Congress, didn't you? You knew you planned to engineer a new Constitution. How in God's name did you pull that one off, sir?
First, I laid the groundwork. I spent the winter of 86-87 studying history and solidifying my ideas about a national government.
All right.
I analyzed the three branches of government in the Roman Republic and their checks and balances. I learned about the virtues of a pure democracy of Athens in 500 BC, but I also learned from the Athenians that an unchecked pure democracy eventually created a tyranny of majority rule. Well, the executive branch had very little...
Pardon me, sir, but let me interrupt. Tell us exactly what you mean by tyranny of majority rule, sir.
You see, in the Athenian democracy, the assembly had total control, total power over government, its laws, its court systems, and the executive branch.
All right.
There were 6,000 citizens in the assembly. Whew. Now, the most powerful orators would sway the mob, and all it took was a simple majority to pass a new law. Now, I know you're 21st century, all you need is a simple majority to pass a law, but there were no checks and balances in Athens. The ecclesia, as they called their assembly, overruled the executive branch and the judiciary as it wished. They taxed the wealthy until they had little money left. Their simple majority was bound by no rule of right or wrong, only by what it wanted at the moment. So you see, in Athens, direct democracy eventually meant mob rule without protections for the minority.
Ben Franklin, by the way, Ben, I got to ask you, because I read where you have a rather interesting way of looking at a direct democracy, right, Ben?
Yes, I would like to caution all that a direct democracy is much like two wolves and one lamb voting on what to have for lunch.
Thank you, sir. Another good one from Ben. So what do we have instead of a direct democracy? We have a democratic republic, a representative form of government. We, the people, elect our representatives who, in turn, working for us, run our government. In fact, Madison also designed into our Constitution a separation of the powers of the President, the Congress, and the Supreme Court, and he set up checks and balances that gave each branch of government the ability to counterbalance the authority of the other two. And those ideas, by the way, were received quite well by the delegates to the Constitutional Convention, 1787. However, there were two factions who fought each other over many details of the Constitution. It was quite a battle. Federalists versus anti-Federalists. Mr. Hamilton, yes, you were the ultimate Federalist, sir. Could you be very precise and, in fact, tell us exactly what you Federalists wanted, sir?
First,
The 13 colonies should form a strong national government.
All right.
Our national Congress must have complete sovereignty in war, peace, trade, finance, and the management of public affairs.
All right.
We also need a strong, independent executive. Citizens should be represented in Congress by the proportionate number of people in their state. And finally, we must abolish slavery.
Okay, thank you, sir. I understand, Mr. Henry. Okay, Patrick Henry, I know you're the leading anti-federalist. Tell us exactly what you folks wanted, sir.
First, we want to limit the power of a national government,
Right.
because the liberty we won in the Revolution is best secured in local and state governments. Second, we want to limit the power of the president so that he doesn't become another king. And we want one state, one vote, because we small states have a right to an equality of representation. And finally, we must keep slavery, because its abolition would destroy the economy and the culture of the South.
Well, there you have it. Both sides debated themselves into a stalemate. Finally, came two major compromises over states' rights and slavery. First, the Great Compromise, also called the Connecticut Compromise. Roger Sherman came up with a then novel idea of two houses of Congress. House of Representatives, with representation based on the population of each state, and of course, just the opposite, the Senate, equal representation, regardless of any differences in population. Then came the sectional compromise, called the 3/5 Compromise. On one side, of course, you had 5 southern states, right, not willing to give up slavery. It was such an important part of their economy and their society. They wanted representation, by the way, in Congress based on total population, slaves plus free people. Boy, we might have a different America today had they gotten away with that. Huh? On the other side, you had 8 northern states opposed to slavery, yet they wanted those slaves in the South to be accounted for so they could be what? Yeah, taxed. Create a little more revenue here. So the two sides cut a deal. Southern states could count only 3/5 of their slaves as being part of the population, all right? And the North also demanded the end of slave trade within 20 years. And the bottom line after that was that all sections of the country got what they thought would create political equality. The South got to keep slavery for at least 20 more years. The North, that was the only way they could get what they wanted, a union, the United States of America. One problem. The delegates finally passed the Constitution, but the states had to ratify it to make it legal. That was not easily done. In fact, those battles between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists continued. Finally, 8 states ratified the Constitution with one condition, that a national Bill of Rights would be included to secure our liberties. In fact, more than 200 amendments were recommended by the various state ratifying conventions to make up that national Bill of Rights. James Madison, the scholar, studied them, got them down to 19. Congress got it down to 12, sent those 12 to the states. The states ratified 10 of those 12, and those 10 became our national Bill of Rights. And with that unifying approval, we were no longer rebels. Finally, we really were Americans. We now had a union. We had a Constitution, a Bill of Rights that spelled out the very soul and substance of our freedoms. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, a right to petition the government, a right to privacy, a right to bear arms. Your property can't be searched or seized without a warrant of probable cause. You don't have to shelter soldiers in your home. That was a big deal back in those days. You're guaranteed, by the way, due process of the law if you are convicted of a crime or charged with a crime. Number one, you're assumed innocent until proven guilty. You have a trial by jury, naturally. You also had to be properly notified of those charges, and you had to be given a fair hearing before you even went to trial. So you're in pretty good shape. In fact, our basic freedoms were finally now secured by our Constitution in a national Bill of Rights. Perfect, right? Not by a long shot. There remain 2 shameful omissions in our Constitution. Slaves had no freedom. Women were still considered to be second-class citizens. So we had these 2 things to handle, didn't we? First, let's take slavery. wasn't unusual. Throughout history, slaves of all colors and ethnic groups were considered to be just another part of our society, just another class in our society. Even under Mosaic law, long before Christ, as long as you treated your slaves humanely, you were permitted to own them. And in the Middle Ages, even if he wanted to, the boldest emperor couldn't have possibly abolished slavery. It would have destroyed the financial base of his entire empire. And just as it had bolstered economies throughout history, slavery slowly grew into a major part of our American economy, with 20 or so indentured servants, Jamestown, 1619, to 475,000 slaves throughout the 13 colonies at the start of the Revolutionary War back in 1775. And so, from the perspective of many Americans in the late 18th century, including Washington, Jefferson, and Madison, slavery was an accepted historical practice, and for that matter, a social and economic necessity in the South. In the North, of course, most leaders, including John Adams, were adamant in denouncing and banning the ownership of slaves. In fact, in those 8 northern colonies, slavery was abolished by all the legislatures and by the late 1700s. But in those southern colonies of Virginia, Maryland, North and South Carolina, and Georgia, totally different story. The majority of citizens there were passionately pro-slavery. And doesn't that raise an interesting question? How could patriots, men such as Washington and Jefferson and Madison and others, meet at that State House in Philadelphia, profess inalienable rights of every man to liberty and equality, claim that slavery is immoral, and then ride home to Virginia to plantations that they owned, worked by slaves that they owned? Well, let me ask a key guy. Thomas Jefferson, sir, you proclaimed that slavery was immoral, yet you owned slaves your entire life. How do you, sir, justify what appears to many of us in this room to be a grotesque contradiction? Sir.
It wasn't that simple, Fred. Freedom for slaves was not easily accomplished. Abrupt emancipation would have done more harm than good. Emancipated slaves would have had to support themselves in a free economy, and that would have taken training and time. And until more could be done for them, it was our responsibility to feed and clothe them well, to protect them from ill usage, and to require only reasonable labor from them.
Thank you, sir. You understand, Mr. Jefferson, of course, that many slave owners, especially those in the Deep South, did not share the same kind of leniency with their slaves that you apparently had with yours, sir. It also took much, much more time, didn't it, sir, to abolish slavery, as you predicted. 3 more generations, in fact, plus a civil war, and 3 amendments, right, in the 1860s, before slaves would finally gain their freedom and their citizenship and their voting rights. And, of course, you and I, no, it didn't work, did it? Because the South set up all kinds of regulations that prevented slaves from their desired and deserved liberty and equality. And as you know, it would take another 100 years after that for the civil rights legislation of the 1950s and 1960s to finally bring freedom to the descendants of our African American slaves. That was the first serious omission. The second one, basic freedoms for women. John Adams' wife, Abigail, by the way, was one of the first outspoken women to advocate more rights for women. In fact, Mrs. Adams, I understand that you sent a rather strong letter to your husband, John. That would have been, what, in the spring of '76, right, ma'am?
I did indeed. You see, John was attending the Continental Congress in Philadelphia, and I knew they would be writing new laws for our new government. So I wrote to him, "If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion, and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation."
Boy, have you ever read some of the letters she wrote to him? Oh, my word. Oh. Anyway, that letter accomplished very little because we all know it would take another 131 years of struggle after the ratification of the Constitution before the 19th Amendment actually gave women the right to vote in 1920. And it was one of 17 amendments to the Constitution following the Bill of Rights. What a journey we've had, huh? So far. Of course, here in the 21st century, it's easy for most of us to laugh at those funny guys, those in their knickers and silk stockings, our original British founding fathers, right? We are touched daily, however, by the precious ideas and values that our founding fathers wrote into our Constitution and Bill of Rights. A couple of examples. I think we argue today as much as they did, right? For example, we argue about what they meant in the First Amendment. Quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, end quote. Does that mean we have the right to print "In God We Trust" on our money? Do public schools or local governments have the right to have Christian prayers, but not Jewish prayers, and not Muslim prayers to open their meetings? Ooh, interesting. Yeah. We argue about the Founding Fathers and what they meant in the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, end of quote. Does that mean we have a right to keep a gun in our home for protection? Does that mean we have a right to carry a loaded weapon on our person when we go out in public to protect ourselves and the people we're with? I think we argue as much today as our Founding Fathers did, because they were much like us, human, fallible mortals, really well-meaning people who often disagreed with each other. However, with all their differences, as we know, our Founding Fathers are the ones who all came together at the same time, sharing their mutual passion for this new concept of the day called liberty. Wow. However, with all their differences, they also are the ones who fought and won a revolution to secure our liberties. They're the ones, by the way, during that miracle at Philadelphia, during that Constitutional Convention, they're the ones who discussed and argued and finally compromised in order to build a government that works. And not perfectly, heaven's sake, no, but one that works better than any government in history to protect our individual rights and to prevent tyranny. And so may I say to all of them, from all of us, thank you, gentlemen, for starting us on our journey. But you and I are still faced with a challenge, are we not? How should you and I nurture, sustain, and protect our American freedoms so that we and our kids and their kids and their kids don't lose them? I think we should be smart. I think we should get involved. And I think we should be passionate about protecting our American freedoms. First of all, there are many ways to be smart, to think reasonably, to think critically. First of all, I suggest you avoid knee-jerk reactions to statements made by political pundits. Let me give you some examples here. If the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, were to say, quote, now is the time to fix our broken immigration system with a common sense approach that gives Americans confidence. If you don't like Boehner, chances are you might have an immediate negative knee-jerk reaction to that statement, right? But if I told you that Vice President Joe Biden is the one who really said that, and you like Biden, whoa, very easy to have an automatic positive knee-jerk reaction to that statement, isn't it? My advice to you is judge an idea based on its merits rather than on your feelings about the person who said it. When somebody makes a claim, also make sure they support it with logical evidence. Be very cautious about everything you hear, see, and read in the news media today. Many news outlets have political agendas. Duh, a lot of you know that. Didn't used to be that way when I was starting in the biz. By the way, many news outlets often use sensationalism to attract viewers, listeners, or readers. Be smart about it. And when you hear commercials or read ads in print media, understand that the people producing them were paid handsomely, a lot of money, to deliver only one side of an issue or a one-sided portrayal of a candidate. So be smart when you are observing them. A primary source of news and information today, of course, bloggers and advocates on social networking sites. Few of them, by the way, are trained journalists. They may be great writers and arguers, but make sure you open your mind to arguments from all sides, all right? And I know you're busy as a student, been there, done that. But somehow, dig out 15 to 20 minutes every day. And you know, if you plan your time wisely, you can do it. Study today's issues, study today's candidates, so you can make intelligent choices when you vote. Winston Churchill came out with many adages, but he's got one that really nails what I'm talking about here. He said, the best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. End of quote. Nervous laughter. I heard just a little bit of it. So don't be an average voter. Be smart. A second way to protect our American freedoms so that we don't lose them is to get involved. In other words, be a participant in our democratic republic. Be sure if you're a citizen that you are registered to vote. Duh. Yeah. Then vote in every election in which you're able to vote, right? Not just every 4 years when they have the big one, when the president is elected. Every one of them. When your time comes, you'll be chosen to serve on a jury and be proud to do it, to support our judicial system. Participate in whatever way your time permits, in your school, your neighborhood, your community, what have you. You can be a helper, a volunteer, a motivator, an organizer. Somehow get involved. And it's very tempting, I know, to say, Fred, my vote or my involvement doesn't matter. Come on. But you know, as well as I know, if you don't get involved, you end up being governed by very special interests who know how to exactly get the attention and control of your representatives. I had the privilege, by the way, of sitting at the same dinner table about a year and a half ago with former Secretary of State George Shultz and his wife. What a wonderful experience that was. And he told me about a tie that President Reagan gave him back in the 80s when Reagan was president. The tie read, "Democracy is not a spectator sport." Duh. Therefore, get involved. Finally, be passionate about protecting our American freedoms. We are so lucky to be living here in a country where we're free from the constraints that hold the majority of the people in the world still captive in one way or another. And of course, the United States still dominates the world, but nothing like the Roman Republican Empire dominated the world more than 1600 years ago, right? Rome declined, however, didn't it? And Rome fell. Some very obvious reasons: a failed foreign policy, a decaying infrastructure, higher and higher taxes on the middle and upper class, ineffective bureaucracy, to name a few. But the most significant cause of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, according to British historian Edward Gibbon, was that Roman citizens no longer cared. They became apathetic and complacent. Rome decayed from within. Therefore, let us not decay from within. Let us also be passionate. In fact, by the way, I prepared a one-pager that outlines the action steps that I've just been suggesting. Steps on being smart, how to get involved, and how to be passionate. And you can download this one-pager from a website. It only costs you $100. Or actually, you can pick up a free copy this morning on your way out. I think somebody's going to have a copy when you guys leave. There you go. Good. Please remember, finally, that here in America, self-gratification is only half of our American freedom to pursue happiness for ourselves and our loved ones, right? The other half is our responsibility to be patriotic and to participate in our government at all levels so we can protect our American freedoms. Good luck to you, and thank you for the privilege of being with you today, because you are America's leaders of tomorrow. Have a good day.